It's me again. So I'll introduce myself for anyone that possibly wasn't here when I introduced myself last. My name's Chris. I'm a consultant for Citation ISO. I've been working for Citation for just over 5 years now, specializing in the implementation of ISO management systems. And today, welcome to our webinar on putting the ISO in ESG. So let's begin. So there we go. There's me. I've already gone through that. So overview. So we're going to talk a little bit about what ESG is. We're going to talk about why it's important, probably why you're hearing it a little bit now, the term ESG being thrown around, why it's quite important, and why it should matter and how it can also help with your business. We're going to also then talk about how ISO can help achieve your ESG goals, a little bit about ISO 14001 and a couple of other standards which can assist with the implementation of ESG controls. And then I'll also talk a little bit about Atlas and our sustainability hub. So a little bit about us first. So we specialize in the implementation and auditing of ISO management systems. We've got 30,000 plus management systems implemented. There's 60 plus of us scattered all over the country. We support right from start to finish, right from going through the ISO management systems, through to writing them, through to auditing them, using our Atlas system, which generates tasks for you to complete. The systems that we create are completely tailored, so we'll go through what internal processes and procedures that you may have, and we will look at putting in place ISO management systems that will work alongside them. And we have been 30 years in business, new to Citation, but 30 years in business. So let's start. What is ESG? So it's short for the environmental, social, and governance. So these are the three pillars that the UN have introduced that impact the environment, society, and governance. So to break them down a little bit, so it's talking about environmental. So it's looking about putting controls in place and looking at what risks, what impacts that your business can have on the environment. So things from pollution through to energy usage, right through to waste management, and looking into sustainable practices. We also look at social, so it's the impacts on your business worldwide, as the impact it has on society, on people, looking into things like diversity, inclusion, health and safety, and mental health and well-being. And then we also have the governance side of things, which looks into internal practices, procedures. It's looking at legal and compliance obligations that you may have as an organization, which may then feed into further decision-making, leadership, and risk analysis. Why is ESG important? So introducing something like ESG will help you contribute to doing the right thing. And once you've identified the potential risks, the potential areas in which ESG can control, it's about putting processes and procedures in place to make sure you're first of all doing the right thing, making sure that everything is done morally and correctly. It includes reducing harm to the environment, treating employees fairly, and upholding ethical standards. Legal thing as well. So talking about governance, deep diving into a little bit into governance. We're going to be looking at legal compliance obligations. It's about doing the right thing legally. It's about identifying if there is any legal and compliance obligations that you may have, any potential risks relating to legal and compliance obligations, and looking at how companies can proactively adhere to these standards and reduce the risk of non-compliance penalties and legal disputes, which comes along with legal compliance obligations. And it's about doing the smart thing. I think one of the things that ESG introduces is it's looking at about doing the right thing, the smart thing, that not only benefits the environment, social and governance, but also benefits your business, both proactively, operationally, financially. It's about identifying any potential gaps, holes, areas which your business may or may not be adhering to correct procedures, and looking at how you can improve them, and looking at creating a more sustainable business and effectively a more sustainable future. So why does ESG matter for your business? So the term ESG was actually publicized in a document which the UN published in in 2005 called Who Cares Wins, and it was a collaborative effort for a lot of companies that put together a guidance on how to be a better company, a more smarter and more financially viable company. ESG is now, you probably heard about the term, it's been thrown around, ESG, and then also the UN's environmental goals as well, which you'll probably hear as well. It's big business. It's been spoke about at top level, and it's something that is going to feed into future goals like net zero, being and having a sustainable business. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. It can play an important role in the future of the business. And it's not just about putting processes, procedures, and things in place, because obviously it's good for the environment, for being social, and for governance, but it's also, it feeds into future things like reputation, which we'll talk about a little bit shortly. But those businesses with ESG focus are in a much stronger position when it comes to further opportunity, being favored, definitely, and looking into how you are viewed from your stakeholders, shareholders, and also the wider community. So why does it matter to your business? It all falls down to risk analysis. It's about setting some form of framework in place so that you can identify potential risk, not only risk to your business, but risk that you could potentially be generating to the environmental, social, and governance areas. So by looking into the ESG considerations and into your strategies, you can proactively manage potential risk. You can identify the risk, you can put plans and controls in place to reduce the risk, and then you can monitor it. It's all about continual improvement. It's all about being better. So it's about identifying, controlling, and actioning. And it's also really good at attracting and retaining employees. So one thing that happened is that there was a survey that was carried out, and there was a statement saying that 64% of millennials won't take a job from a potential employee if they don't have a strong corporate social responsibility practices, which all feeds into ESG. It's starting to become a favored thing, not only with employees, but with employers. It's about having it's a great flagship. It's a great thing. It's great for marketing. It's great for everything. And it's about identifying what importance it has for your image as a company as well. So yeah. So going into image, so it's talking about a competitive advantage. I mean, for anyone else, if we go back and we just take an example of how image is quite important, if we go back a few years and we look into Blue Planet highlighted the major issues with single-use plastics, and from that became a lot of governance and a lot of controls, especially environmentally and socially. A lot of companies were being asked of them to implement processes and procedures to reduce single-use plastics, and people's opinions on them companies not doing it quick enough was quite big. So it's about giving you the competitive advantage. If you've got processes, procedures in place which you can prove are relating to your ESG, then you will be favored upon. Effectively, you can be favored upon. It definitely gives you a competitive advantage over somebody that doesn't have the processes and procedures in place, which includes attract investors, potential cost savings as well, especially if we're going to be looking into the environment and to energy management as well, and looking into the controls that you've got there. The benefits that come with that is financial as well, being able to monitor potential risk, overuse of materials and resource, and being able to reduce them by the introduction of specific ISO standards, which we'll talk about shortly, can help reduce with cost savings. And again, enhancing reputation. There's multiple companies out there. I won't name any at the moment, but that have a very good reputation around their environmental controls, around their social controls, and their social governance. And their marketing on this is quite good, and you'll be able to quite easily access information related to them companies, and their reputation is quite good. And then 76% of consumers say that they will stop buying from companies that treat the environment, employees, and the community in which they operate poorly, which is the PwC. So Yep, I've definitely known myself in the past to be able to look into companies and see whether they have processes and procedures in place. And it's becoming more and more of a common thing that consumers are making this a conscious decision before purchasing, or going to companies that potentially do or don't have controls in place to address the ESG. Um, ISO goals to reach your ESG. So, as you're probably familiar with, ISO, the International Standards Organization, introduce lots of different standards relating to different areas of business. Obviously, there's going to be ISO standards which can feed into the ESG, and the main structure that ISO is built upon is planning and risk management, for pretty much every standard. And some feed into the environmental, social, and governance. So whether you're wanting to improve a specific area of your business, whether you're wanting to look into reducing your environmental performance or increasing your environmental performance, sorry, whether you're wanting to reduce risk related to a specific area, I can probably guarantee that there's going to be an ISO there for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the ISO standards that us at Citation ISO certify to, and explain how they can help with achieving your ESG goals. So we have the environmental management system. I'll only touch upon this lightly now because I know I've got some more slides coming up about 14,001, but it is the environmental management system. We have social controls, which is ISO 45,001, which is the health and safety management system, identifying physical hazards and risks to staff members and creating a safe working environment for them. Also ISO 45003, which is a new introduction. This is about psychosocial risks and mental health and safety. So it's not looking at just the physical risks, it's also looking at the psychosocial risks, because it tends to mean that some physical risk can create psychosocial risks and vice versa. So it's about being aware of what psychosocial risks are out there. And then we got governance. So governance looks into conformity of products and services, which is ISO 9001, which is your quality management system. It's about setting up a structured planning and risk management process to be able to look at external factors, internal factors which can affect the business, and looking at any potential compliance obligations that you may have as a company, if there's any specific standards related to your business or industry specific requirements. And then we also have ISO 27001, which is the information security management system. This goes heavily into governance and more into data protection, information security, and legal and compliance obligations. So there's a standard for pretty much everything. So give me an E for 14,001. So the environmental management system. So one of the benefits of introducing an environmental management system to achieve your ESG goals is the fact that it is a standard that is based around hazard identification around environmental aspects and impacts. So one of the key controls that you need to do with an environmental management system is complete an environmental impact assessment. And what you're wanting to do as a business is to look at potential environmental aspects. So these are things that could cause risk or opportunity to your business. Once you've identified what these environmental aspects are, what you would need to do then is create an assessment. So look at the impacts and control it. So part of it is you're looking at the environmental aspect. You're then potentially going to be looking at legal and compliance obligations. Is there any legislation out there which could govern the controls relating to the environmental management system or environmental controls? And then from that, set yourself controls in place. One of the other main purposes of pretty much every ISO management system is that continual improvement. It's about a standard of monitoring and measuring. One of the misconceptions with ISO 14001 is that it is to reduce your carbon footprint, which yes, it does. It can do, it can help with that, but it's also about monitoring and measuring, because at some point, business is business, and you'll need to be able to drive your wagon down the road, or you'll need to be able to turn your factory on. So it's about being aware of your environmental aspects, impacts, and controls. So this obviously aligns with the E for ESG. Obviously, I spoke a little bit about the other standards that will feed into social and governance, but the whole premise of it is that it's all about risk identification, identifying potential risk, looking at legal and compliance obligations which may govern potential risk, and then also then looking at what controls you can put in place to reduce risk or to monitor and measure it. So for anyone that is currently using Atlas, you may have noticed on the left-hand side that there is something called sustainability. So there is a sustainability hub, and it is a survey in which you can go into. There's a lot of information in there, but there's also a free sustainability assessment which you can complete. What you can do is you can fill in what potential assets that you've got relating to energy management, whether it be staffing issues, whether it may be environmental issues that you may have. What you can do is you can fill in all of your information, and then what the assessment will do is it will generate a report, and it will give you pointers and tips on how you can improve your sustainability. There's also a lot of source material on there, and I know the guys in our marketing department put out a lot of information on a regular basis. So yeah, there's that there for you to go and have a look at. Yes, so that is it. That is a little bit about ESG and how ESG ties into 14, 45, 45,003, 9,000 and 27,001. Obviously, just to touch a little bit on the ISOs, is if you do have an existing ISO standard, it's quite easy to implement further ISO standards, especially because the foundations of how ISO is built is that it leans towards having integration of processes. So if you already have 9001, for example, it isn't too much work to introduce something like 14,001. Or if you've got 14,001, it's not hard to introduce 45, or too much work to introduce the 45,001. So yeah, what I'll do now is I'll open up the floor to any questions that you have. I'll try answer any questions that you may throw at my way. But if there's something that I don't have the answer to right now, I'll be sure to come straight back to you with an email with my answer. So, Ellie, do you want to put? Yep, fantastic. Let's have a look. Is there any questions? Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, no questions, apparently. Anybody else? Any questions? Okay, doesn't appear to be. Any questions? I've either done a very, very good job or a very, very bad job. I hope it's the former. So, yep. A little bit more before we conclude today. We also have launched something called ISO Mentor. ISO Mentor is a virtual training platform which you can sign up to use, and they practically provide interactive webinars for smaller audiences, breaking down different parts of ISO standards, looking into what they mean, what controls you can put in place, and how you can benefit from introducing them. It's comprehensive, high-quality training by experts within Citation ISO, and he'll be able to provide you with practical examples of how you can implement processes. The webinars are run on a regular basis. There's a lot of repetition, meaning if you do miss one, you can probably catch it at a later date, or if you have multiple members of staff that you want to sign up to ISO Mentor and you don't want to have them all off at the same time, you'll be able to put them on different sessions. And it's unlimited. You can keep going and going to the same webinar over and over again if you really want to, if you want to firm up your knowledge. I must say that when I was learning ISO, I'd have loved to have something like this. So it's a great system. You can definitely benefit from having a little look into it. And yes, why ISO certification? I think I've gone through a little bit, but it's a seamless step-by-step process, two-stage process where we approach your business. We'll speak to you. We'll arrange a consultancy. We will speak to you through the standard, what's required of that. We'll create a gap analysis at the end, which will identify where you are current state against where you need to be, depending on which standard you've got. You'll have a period of time for you to implement any tasks or close out any tasks which you need doing, and then we'll follow up with a certification audit. The certification audit will check any non-conformances that were outstanding, and then at the end of that, if everything's in place, we award certification. And then on a year-by-year basis, we'll carry out annual surveillance audits. You'll have full access to our Atlas ISO management system, which is integrated with Citation, with the health and safety, HR. So it's a one-stop shop platform for you to complete everything. But yep, you'll have access to all other parts of the system and ongoing support from the likes of me, who can speak to you on a regular basis and make sure everything's going well. So, yep, I hope that's been informative. I hope that that it's giving you a little bit of clarity on how ISO can help with ESG and a little bit about what ESG is. There's a few links on the screen here if you want to go through. For anyone that is wanting copies of the slides, I've been informed that our team will be in contact with you in the next couple of days to ask if you would like a copy of them, and they will happily send them over. So they'll give you a call and they'll speak to you that way. So I hope that was informational for you. I hope that was beneficial. And if you have any questions, I know that Ellie has posted the emails within the chat. So you'll be able to see mine in the middle there, chriscase@citation.co.uk. If you do have any specific questions or something pops into your head in an hour, in 2 hours, in 2 days, by all means, pop me an email and I'll be able to help you with anything. And if you do have any further questions about anything ISO related, any other standards, a couple of areas that I specialize in is environmental and mental health and safety. So if you have any specific questions about that from an expert, give me a shout. And if not, it's been lovely to deliver this for all of you. I hope it helps and speak to you again. And you're all very, very welcome. Everyone's saying thank you in the chat. You're all very welcome. Okay. All the best, guys. Bye-bye.